Hello, friend. We're almost cancelled. I'm Peter, and this is Connor.
Hey guys.
And today is a glorious day because our favourite show from last year has returned. Well, kind of. Mr. Robot Season 2 is kicking off on Wednesday, but they released the first half of the two-part premiere early online because shows like to do that this year, especially when they're cable networks.
Mr. Robot did it last year though.
That's true, it did. It started the trend.
It was ahead of the trend, yeah.
But I will give it some credit for two reasons. First of all, it's only a few days before the premiere, so there's
Yep.
none of this night of, I need to wait 3 weeks for episode 2 bollocks. And secondly, there's another new episode on Wednesday night.
Yeah, it's like 2 days and then it's like, oh fuck, we got more. Can't
Yeah,
wait.
so this is the best example of this shtick that's been pulled.
Definitely.
So I approve.
Didn't they do this last year as well? I mean, it was a few weeks before, or maybe even a month, where they released the first episode. But wasn't there two at once for the first episode, like the first night?
No.
Are you sure? Because I'm pretty.
No, because I remember covering it and I remember we started a week late and episode 2 was on and we caught up.
Right. Okay.
But it definitely didn't air the same night. Because they have a longer order this year. It's still 10 weeks, but the first night and the last night are doubles.
Right.
And so yeah, if that's not clear from everything we just said, we're talking about Mr. Robot Season 2, Episode 1. I shall simplify the title because it's a word, but there's numbers in it and shit to make it look computery. So I'm just going to say it. It's EPS 2.0 Unmask Part 1 .tc.
TC.
Yeah, that was the other thing. I looked at the list of all the episode titles for Season 2, and Season 1, I recognised like maybe 8 or 9,
Most,
8 or
yeah.
9 out of 10 of all the file extensions they had in the titles. This season, I maybe recognise one.
Yeah. What's TC?
I have no idea, but they've dug deep. Do you know what it'll be? It'll be a file that an editing program somewhere uses.
Probably.
'Cause
I'm
they
gonna have to look it up now.
They usually have their own things, and I bet you that's what some of these are. But yeah, so full spoilers for episode 1 of Mr. Robot, part 1 of the two-part premiere. Part 2, of course, we'll cover when it airs, or after it airs, you know what I mean. So, we loved Mr. Robot last year, and this was like sliding back into a nice warm cozy bed.
Yeah, it's. I just rewatched the first season, and it was impressive that it was even better than I remembered, which high praise considering what we thought of it last year.
I think it's worth mentioning that, one of the things that I said repeatedly last year when we got towards the end, and obviously if it's full spoilers for this episode, it's full spoilers for all of season 1 as well. I'm making sure that's perfectly clear before I say what I'm about to say.
Yeah, do not jump into
Yeah.
this show with season 2. Just
Yeah.
don't.
So after all the twists really hit in episode 8 and 9, I said, I bet this will be fascinating to rewatch down the line. And I didn't do it. I kind of planned on doing it quite quickly, but I just didn't. But, season 2 was approaching, and we both had the same idea. We both rewatched season 1. And there was so many little things and hints and tidbits in there that you didn't pick on the first time because... And the amazing thing about Mr. Robot season 1, not to focus on season 1 too much because we'll get to this episode, but is that it kind of like, it gave you a twist that we all seen coming, but then blindsided us with this second twist that
Yeah.
no one predicted, and it put them together really well. So they're playing with us yet again. The creator Sam Esmail he still has something genius this season, because the first season had the whole unreliable narrator kind of aspect going for it with Elliot talking to us as if we were his imaginary friend. This season opens, and one of the big features of this episode, other than the fact that Elliot's trying to live a normal routine with his mother, he's like moved in with his mother, who we know from like glimpses last season that she's not the most pleasant person on the planet. And he's going through his routine of going to the restaurant with his friend, I think it was Leon, I think his name was.
I can't remember.
Yeah, but he's obsessed with Seinfeld. That was amusing.
Yeah.
I knew every episode he mentioned because they're all quite memorable. And he's doing all that, but the thing that really stood out to me was that he goes to see the psychiatrist, and they have some interesting dialect because of like he actually told her that he hacked her last season,
Yeah.
and they have a bit of exchange, and he's kind of honest with her, and it cuts away, and it cuts to him walking back home, and then he speaks to us. He says, "Yeah, I bet you wished you know what I said next there." but I don't trust you after what you did to me.
I know, it's so damn good.
And I'm like, you fuck. You literally can withhold like vital information to give us twists later, and it makes sense from a character perspective to do so.
Yeah.
It,
It's because it's the complete opposite of last season, because obviously we were seeing the Mr. Robot side of things that he had no idea of. So we had more knowledge than he did. Whereas now, everything's changed.
yeah, and that's the other thing is Mr. Robot himself, the apparition or the figment of his imagination, whatever you want to call Christian Slater's Mr. Robot. And I'm still going to call him Mr. Robot, even though technically Elliot is also Mr. Robot, just to differentiate, because Elliot, Mr. Robot.
Yeah, they're two kind of
Yeah.
two personalities though,
Yeah.
so good differentiate that way.
He is completely changed as well.
He's terrifying.
He has went into hostile mode because Elliot's trying to get rid of him, and that gunshot scene where he puts the gun up to his head and blows his brains out, and obviously it's not real, so Elliot sits back up, but it doesn't really stop it from being like jolting and like violent and shit.
I'm going to say now, this is Slater's best performance yet. And he was very good in season 1. Don't get me wrong. He was great. But this was like a whole new side. It was like, wow. Like, it just brought something completely different to the table.
Yeah. No, I agree. He was great in this episode, as was Malik.
Yeah, of course. But obviously, he was like the standout last season.
Yeah,
so you don't need
he's-
to mention him as much.
Yeah, he's just continuing the
Yeah.
greatness. But even he's doing like he's still playing Elliot, of course. But even he's thrown into this different type of situation where he's trying to like be away from computers and technology, and you know this is all going to come to some sort of grinding halt when something's going to like force him back into
It
action.
reminds me of when he decided he needed to try and cut off the morphine back in season 1.
Yeah, so this is
And
way
it's
more
like with-
interesting.
Yeah, it is, but it's like it's a next level of that essentially because this is way worse of an addiction than he ever had to the drug, even though that was physical.
Yeah, this is heavy duty stuff, and he's keeping his journal, and so Elliot stuff is like fascinating. The scene where Gideon comes to speak to him to try and get help because the FBI think he's somehow involved in everything because he runs Allsafe, and Allsafe was involved in everything. Because, by the way, I'm pretty familiar with filmmaking tricks and techniques and stuff. I'm not quite sure how they pulled off that Obama TV speech. Because at first I thought, oh, this is just a stock speech about the stock market or something that they've just...
Yeah.
And then he name drops Tyrell and F Society, and I'm like... And it's on camera, you see him say it. It's not just like ad-libbed, like, oh, they got a sound-alike, someone who can do the impression to say it when the camera's not facing it. You see him say it.
It is impressive, isn't it?
What the fuck? Did they just call the president? Like,
I'm at the stage where I'm like, maybe they did. Because it was fucking impressive.
like, what the hell? Like, he says it on camera, you see his lips move and say Tyrell, Wellick, and F Society.
They're not even like common words that sound like F Society.
Yeah, like...
It's such a unique thing that it's not even like you can get something that looks like his mouth was moving.
Because see if it was off camera. If it was off camera, I would say either a sound-alike did it, or they could maybe piece it together from, different sounds from different cities. If if you're good enough
Yeah,
at doing
you
that,
can do that.
yeah, you can piece it together. But it just
Both together is like, wow.
yeah, and this is your expertise. This is sound, and
Yeah,
I
it's damn impressive is what it is.
I don't know, but yeah, the scene where Gideon comes and talks to him, and Mr. Robot's like and this is the thing, in trying to preserve himself and stay with Elliot, not only has he gotten more violent, he's more persistent. Like he's there when he's talking to other people constantly. Like his last season, because they were not revealing that he wasn't real, there wasn't this sense of he was like just there in scenes, like try to like.
Yeah, there was usually one or the other was
Yeah.
the focus. They were alternating.
Whereas this is like a full-on assault. He's like threatening him. He's like threatening Gideon. Obviously, Gideon can't hear any of this, and it was incredibly tense. And
But it brings up some fascinating things because obviously you see him cut Gideon's neck, and obviously then it's quickly showed didn't happen because there's a second where you go, did Elliot do that?
yeah, you're worried that Elliot's doing something crazy.
Because you don't know who, like you're never quite sure if he's actually taken control. But then it ends on that shot of the sliced apple skin. So it's like, so he did have the knife, and so Elliot was sitting there with the knife and the apple, during this conversation,
Yeah.
even though we saw that with Mr. Robot.
Now, obviously, the filmmaking in season 1 was great. Filmmaking in season 2 is so far great as well. They love the headroom.
Yeah.
That's still there. Headroom's still there. But let's go back to the start, because before we even get to the title screen, there was 2 cliffhangers last season, both at the end of episode 9 and the end of episode 10. One of them is partially addressed here, and I say partially. The end of episode 9, Tyrell was brought to the amusement arcade thing.
The funhouse.
The funhouse, yeah, their base. And we knew the gun was in the popcorn machine, and that's where the episode ended. Next finale starts, 3 days have passed, we have no idea where Tyrell is, and all this other stuff starts happening. Right, fine. So this starts with that funhouse scene, and it continues. You see Elliot start the program, and he goes for the gun at the end, and you see Tyrell try on the mask, and you see, oh, that's where they've been filming those things. Because we obviously kind of knew it was them the whole time, but we never really seen them set it up and do the whole thing. And so that was fascinating for me. See, for a second there, see when that started, I was thinking, is this going to be the whole episode? Is the whole episode going to be like that
in that 3 days? Yeah, I thought it might have been as well.
Like, I was thinking it might be, but now I'm thinking, oh, we're going to revisit this throughout.
Yeah, because obviously it ends as he reaches for the gun.
Yeah.
We know what he's reaching for, but Tyrell at this point doesn't see that.
Yeah, so now I'm like...
And it still leaves questions like, did Elliot shoot him and dispose of the body? Did he just threaten him and Tyrell left? Like, what happened?
Yeah. And that's the other thing, actually, because the thing that came from that Obama speech is that Tyrell is, like, enemy number 1. Like, everyone is like, he's the head of this. He's the one who did this.
Yeah.
So there's tidbits to get from that. So that's fascinating in its own right. So I can see it's coming back to this 3-day period over the season.
Yeah,
I mean, I could be wrong. They could just bookend it at the end of the next part. I don't know, but I could see it like lasting throughout, and it's getting a little bit each time.
Up till maybe like episode 6 or 7.
Yeah, you may be right.
Yeah.
Which is when Tyrell shows up.
Yeah, and then it all kickstarts in for the second half of the season, so to speak.
That's the Tyrell stuff. Very interesting. And that was kind of all of the Elliot stuff for the episode. Now, they introduced a new character to us. Who, I mean, fuck knows what her name is, because like she's brand new.
We got she's her nickname, wasn't it?
She's the
Executioner. Something like that.
It was something. It was like it was longer than that. It was like an adjective in front of it.
Yeah, right. It was something like that, though, wasn't it?
Aye. Actually, one thing I did like is that every time in season 1, after Elliot established that he called E Corp Evil Corp, everyone always said that. But there was a scene with this episode with Darlene, and because Elliot wasn't there, she just said E Corp, and I liked that. It was a nice, like, he's not there, so it's not through his perspective.
Yeah, this is actual real events. Yeah. It's not filtered.
But yeah, we're introduced to this new character, and again, it takes its time. It does it like it shows us through action. She's going for a jog. We get a sense that she does this kind of thing, and even that's like world building, because you see people like on all these stalls, and I'm thinking, is this related to the fact that the economy's like fucked right now?
Yeah.
And she goes home, and her smart home starts going haywire.
And now smart homes are a terrifying future for me.
Yeah, because they can be hacked.
Well, yeah, there was always the possibility, but like, oh shit, look how terrifying this is.
Yeah. That said, though, I aim to one day have like a swimming pool in my house that's just wide enough for me. Like, like just one of those long strips just for me. Like, no one else can come in and use it.
Yeah.
I like that idea. But no, it turns out it's Darlene and F Society, which is growing in numbers since we last seen it.
Big time.
They've cut off the... I assume this is a famous statue in Wall Street, but they've cut off the balls of like a big bull statue that's in there. Was that a bull?
Sorry, it was a bull. Yeah. It's very metaphorical though, isn't it? You're cutting off the balls of the bull. You're taking away its strength. And
yeah, I'm just assuming that statue is like one that's known to be there.
I'd assume so. I'm surprised they didn't cut off the horns as well, to be honest, though. Because that's what, like, if you're going for the symbolism, the balls, so its ability to, like, that's its ability to continue its future, and its horns, its weapon, its ability to survive now.
I just don't think they give it as much thought as that. They thought we'll take its balls because that's symbolic. I don't know.
Yeah, I think if you're gonna be symbolic, go all the way. Do both.
And it's complex. So I think I'm taking two things. One thing's more of a message, and two.
Nah, maybe.
That's the way I'm looking at it.
Still stand by my thoughts.
Yeah, but Darlene's pure in charge now. She's
Yeah.
commanding the F Society because we seen the season final last year that Elliot was kind of like, should we have done this? Like he was questioning it, he was doubting himself, and that's obviously sent him down the spiral to living with his mother. Which, by the way, actually the other cliffhanger that I mentioned, I said there was two. The one at the end of episode 10 last season was that someone knocked on the door, and the episode ended. It cut to black as he went to open the door. So we've got that to explore, but we have no idea who that was.
Yeah. Especially the thing with that scene is it's very reminiscent of a few episodes earlier where Mr. Robot knocks on the door.
Yeah, I'm thinking it was Tyrell, if I'm guessing.
Yeah, but it was the same sort of.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. No, it was very similar. So that was cool. And then the sort of the final, and it's funny, like in a weird way, there's not a lot in this first part, but at the same time there kind of is because we've talked for a while about it. But
Well-
the plot then that's set up here is that Darlene and F Society have put another program into like the banking system at E Corp, which. And it's basically a ransom demand to say, right, it's counting down, I don't know what timer said, 24
About
hours.
24 hours, yeah.
If you don't give us 5.9 million, which, by the way, I'm curious as
Why
to why.
5.9?
This is a very specific number.
Because I thought that, it's like, why wouldn't you go for 6? 6 seems the obvious if you're going around that mark. So why 5.9?
It obviously means something.
Yeah, I agree. Because it stood out to me too.
So we'll get to that. And this is the first time we then see both the husband of the woman that Tyrell murdered last season and the boss man, whose name I can't remember for the life of me.
Nah, me either.
Yeah, the bald guy with the beard, him.
The head of the company.
Aye, and the executioner lady. And they're just sort of like responding to this threat, and the demands are that one of the executives of the company has to deliver the money with no police in this public place at this time, or we're going to fuck your entire banking system, it's all going to go away. And that's basically the cliff. The ending here is the husband of the wife that died last season agreeing to be the one that does it, and a really cool moment as well because it lingers on it. It lingers on him after he does it, and the music kind of is nice and music's very good throughout. Actually, that's
I really liked how also at the end there cut to intermission,
it did, yeah.
which was interesting.
Which is weird when you're just watching half of it, but
But you can see how
Yeah.
it is. It is designed as one episode essentially, just with a break.
Yeah, and I even started with a big part one,
Yeah.
which was cool. It makes it feel very cinematic, actually, very old school cinematic as well.
Yeah, it does. Intermission. You don't see intermission very often.
You do not. I can think of like maybe 2 or 3 times in my life that I've been in the cinema and there's been an intermission,
Yeah.
and they've always been long. Like it's always at least a 3-hour long movie.
Yeah.
But no, that was a great episode. Part of me was almost worried a little bit
That it
going
wouldn't
into
quite live up.
that it wouldn't live up to it. That now that we've had those big twists, like
Where do they go from there with the Mr. Robot character or things like that?
not even just the character, just where would the mystery be? Where would the sense of discovery and like just the feeling that the show gives you? And honestly, if this keeps up what this first half has done, I think season 2 will be stronger.
They do. Because, like I said, that mystery element, they've done it. They solved it immediately by flipping it so that Elliot doesn't trust us. It's like, there we go. Instantly, we don't have all the information.
And do you know what I like about that as well? Going back to this whole he doesn't trust us thing. He doesn't trust us because we knew Mr. Robot wasn't real. It was him.
Yeah.
And
We didn't tell him, essentially.
Yeah, we didn't tell him, which, we couldn't.
But it's still
Hey,
fascinating.
I tried tweeting to Elliot, but he's not on Twitter.
No, he hacked all of that and got rid of it.
No, it's genius stuff, because one of the things that I loved about season 1 was the way that, like, us as the imaginary friend and the way that Elliot spoke to us played into how we were perceiving things as they were happening. The way that as Darlene's about to say that he's his sister, we realise it through context that she's his sister, but before she finishes the sentence, he's the one that says it, because he, like us, has realised it.
Yeah, you put it together at the same time. It's
Yeah.
really great.
And it was all things like that throughout the season, and this kind of continues this idea that it really affects how we play off him as a narrator.
Yeah, it's so there's some other fantastic things like just small things. Darlene at the head of F Society, I think is really interesting because what I can't remember, the other girl who was in F Society.
Yeah,
Do you remember that episode where they went out to find the other Chinese people and she was like, "Why do you do this? You don't care about it for the same reasons we do." Back in season one, and so it's like, has she changed and now she does have these more good motives, or is she still kind of a selfish because she just wanted the momentary chaos at the time?
yeah,
So it's interesting.
yeah. Because now she's actually kind of pissed because, like, yeah, we give them a blow, but they're not down, they're not out. You know?
And that's the other thing we see that E Corp, when they get the ransom, the FBI they've had advice not to do it, but they're like 5.9 million. They call it we could find that between the couch cushions. It's nothing to them. Even now, after all this, they can find $6 million just no problem.
Yeah. I like the scene at the bank with the old woman berating the
Yeah, I did as well.
the banker. It was just a nice bit of context to see how this is affecting regular people.
I think that's what the show's done really well with. It did it in episode 10 as well, where we just saw the chaos in the streets. No one could have any money. No one could get any cash out. No one knew what they were doing. Now we see it a little bit later where things have developed. People have gotten used to the situation, maybe.
Yeah, but things like mortgages are starting to, like, yeah, you've not paid this. Well, I have paid this, yeah, but there's no record of it. But
Yeah, exactly. But it also shows maybe it didn't go quite as FSA planned. Because obviously they wanted to just wipe the debt. It's like, well, if you can't prove it, we don't have to pay
yeah,
it.
yeah, I was almost expecting the woman to turn around and say, "Well, there's no proof that I owe you rent or I owe you mortgage payments."
But at the same time, there's no proof that she paid it off. So who's in the right is the problem, isn't it? Because there's still paper records that she had a mortgage with them.
That's true.
They still have that in E Corp. They'd have records that she started it, but they don't know how much she's paid off.
Yeah. Well, maybe F Society should have thought this through.
Maybe they should have. That's what I'm saying. Yeah,
Maybe it's not a clean slate as they might have thought it was.
and I think that's exactly where season 2 is going to go, where it didn't go quite as they planned. So what do they do now?
Yeah. So obviously we didn't get to see. I forgot her name. Blondie.
Angela.
Angela, thank you. I was going to say Ashley, but yeah, Angela. We haven't seen her yet, so presumably she'll pop up in the second part of the premiere.
I'd expect so. I mean, we ended with her working for E Corp, right?
Yeah, she went into the belly of the beast.
Yeah, because the last thing I remember, I think she goes and gets the new shoes when the guy blows his brains out next to her.
Yeah, that's right.
And then she's like really nonchalant about it, like getting the shoes, and she goes back to work for them.
Yeah, she feels very. It's like she's losing her humanity almost.
Yeah.
Which
is interesting because obviously she was Elliot's link to humanity for a lot of it.
Yeah, I can see some more flip flopping going on there where Elliot has to try and
bring her back.
Yeah, bring her back to reality. So that'll be very interesting to see. But no, I'm deeply excited. So we'll be back in a couple of days with part 2 of the premiere.
And hopefully some more answers.
And
but almost certainly more questions.
Yeah, I'm cool with questions. Questions are the best part of TV. Anyone who wants answers all the time doesn't understand good storytelling. So, with that said, that's Mr. Robot, Unmask Part 1. Let us know what you thought in the comments below. Like and subscribe, all that jazz. Thanks very much for watching. We will see you next time.